Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Rebekah Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan Elrom.
In our top story, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced the postponement of planned strikes on Iran's energy sites and has signaled progress in negotiations with members of the Islamic Republic. The president confirmed that his administration was engaged in productive talks with Iran regarding a complete and total resolution of the war. This includes abandoning its nuclear weapons program, uranium enrichment, and demands that Tehran relinquish its existing stockpile of weapons-grade uranium. A senior American official told the Jerusalem Post that despite the talks, strikes on Iran and the deployment of American forces in the Middle East is continuing as planned. An Israeli official confirmed that there has been no change in coordination with the U.S. military or in operational plans. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to this announcement in an address to the Israeli public. Yochanan has more on that.
Yes, Rebecca, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the Israeli public regarding the U.S. negotiations with Iran to possibly end the war. Netanyahu explained that President Trump believes there is an opportunity to leverage the tremendous achievements of the IDF and the U.S. military in order to achieve the objectives through an agreement that will preserve Israel's vital interest. But he added that, at the same time, the IDF continues to strike both Iran and Lebanon, dismantling the missile and nuclear program piece by piece and dealing severe blows to Hezbollah. Netanyahu assured the public that any deal to end the fighting between the United States, Israel, and Iran would protect Israel's vital interest.
Beirut has ordered the expulsion of the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon. This comes after the Iranian-backed Hezbollah terror group pulled Lebanon into war by attacking the Jewish state on behalf of Iran. The Lebanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs declared Iranian envoy Mohammad Reza Shabani persona non grata and gave him just days to vacate his post and leave the country. It also summoned Beirut's ambassador to Tehran to discuss Iran's violations of diplomatic norms and practices between their countries.
Israel's foreign ministry released a scathing statement accusing Iran of targeting Jewish, Christian, and Muslim holy sites in the Old City of Jerusalem. This comes after shrapnel from an Iranian missile fell just meters away from the Temple Mount and the Dome of the Rock. Shrapnel from previous Iranian missile strikes caused damage to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and other holy sites. The foreign ministry released footage of the most recent attack, saying that while the Iranian terror regime targets the city sacred to billions around the world, Israel remains committed to protecting these holy sites for all.
Israel's Mossad spy agency is reportedly calling senior members of the Iranian regime on their personal phones, telling them to step aside or share the fate of their assassinated leaders. Israeli intelligence and security expert Reserve Brigadier General Yossi Cooperwasser said, "This program reveals the extent of the Israeli penetration into the Iranian governmental system." He said psychological warfare is part of Israel's tactics to weaken the Iranian regime and to create the conditions for the Iranian people to change it.
4 ambulances belonging to a Jewish community emergency service were set ablaze in London. Metropolitan Police released a statement saying it is treating the incident as an anti-Semitic hate crime. A radical Islamist terror group claimed responsibility for the attack, as well as for explosions outside a Jewish school in Amsterdam and synagogues in Rotterdam and Belgium in early March. It said the attacks are part of a coordinated campaign to spread terror in Jewish communities. Israeli defense forces have destroyed the Litani Bridge in southern Lebanon, severing a major artery for Hezbollah weapons smuggling. The IDF released a statement saying Hezbollah was using the bridge to transfer weapons south toward the border with Israel. These weapons were used to carry out terror attacks from southern Lebanon against IDF soldiers and Israeli civilians. The IDF said it destroyed the crossing to prevent harm to Israeli and Lebanese citizens alike.
Jewish Israelis continue to overwhelmingly support Operation Roaring Lion to defeat Iran, the world's largest state sponsor of terror. A recent survey conducted by Tel Aviv University's Institute for National Security Studies shows that 91% of Jewish Israelis support the war with Iran. Meanwhile, Israelis continue to scramble for bomb shelters as the fanatic leaders in Tehran have fired hundreds of ballistic missiles on the Jewish state. The study reveals that despite sheltering in place and operating under emergency protocols, Israeli Jewish support has remained consistent since the start of the war. The survey also notes that an overall majority of respondents said that the war should continue until the Islamic regime falls.
Young people living in the state of Israel have been ranked third happiest in the world. Overall, the Jewish state placed 8th in the World Happiness Report for the second year in a row, despite fighting wars on multiple fronts. Anat Fanti, a happiness policy researcher at Bar-Ilan University, explained that Israel's ranking has consistently increased since 2021. She said this trend does not surprise her because Israelis have a sense of meaning and purpose that contributes to their overall satisfaction with life. The study found that Israelis under the age of 25 are the happiest demographic within Israeli society, ranking third globally. This stands in sharp contrast with other Western nations. Fanti said young Israelis are much more grounded compared to their counterparts in other countries. She cited mandatory military service at the age of 18 as one of the factors that instills patriotism and allows Israeli youth to make decisions far beyond their years.
Archaeologists researching Israel's Stonehenge of the East have used artificial intelligence and high-resolution satellite imagery to enhance their study of the massive stone structure in the Golan Heights. Gilgal Rephaim, or the Wheel of Giants, was constructed from 40,000 tons of massive stones, arranged in circles spanning over 150 meters in diameter. Shockingly, a survey of the landscape revealed that this ancient structure is not unique to northern Israel. Satellite images found dozens of similar sites throughout the Golan and the Galilee. The study, published in PLOS ONE Journal, documents more than 30 similar basalt circles identified within 25 kilometers of Gilgal Rephaim. These newly identified structures share consistent archaeological logic, arranged in concentric circular patterns like Gilgal Rephaim, although they are much smaller and degraded.
The Israel Allies Foundation officially relaunched its Parliamentary Israel Allies Caucus in the Honduran National Congress. This is a sign of the long-standing commitment of Honduras to Israel. It serves to advance faith-based diplomacy and strengthen bilateral ties through democratic and biblical values. Honduras has been a proud member of the Israel Allies Foundation since 2018. This relaunch marks a new chapter with the congressional leadership of Honduras to deepen strategic relations, advance pro-Israel legislation, and combat anti-Semitism throughout the region. Josh Reinstein, president of the IAF, welcomed the move, saying in these challenging times, faith-based diplomacy is more essential than ever, and we are excited to work with the new administration in Honduras to build on this legacy, promoting peace, security, and shared biblical values throughout Latin America and beyond.
Jews around the world are preparing to celebrate the Passover holiday that will begin sundown on Wednesday. This week-long biblical festival commemorates the liberation of the Jewish people from slavery in Egypt, as told in the book of Exodus. The Passover story details 10 biblical plagues which afflicted the people of Egypt, culminating with the death of the firstborn sons. The Israelites were commanded to put lamb's blood on their doorposts so that the angel of death would pass over their homes. This year, the symbolism of the Passover holiday is even more meaningful, as Israeli and American forces are fighting to liberate Iran from its fanatic leaders. The plight to free the people of Iran will be at the forefront of everyone's mind during the Passover Seder, as we remember the exodus from Egypt and the miracles God performed to deliver his people from Egyptian slavery and bring them to the Promised Land. In Israel, we continue to see these miracles every day and know that our belief in God will deliver us yet again. We at Israel Now News would like to wish all of our viewers a healthy and happy holiday. Chag Kasher v'Sameach. Happy Passover.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. We're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Rabbi Jay Weinstein. He's the director of Christian Affairs at the Jewish Agency. Jay, thank you for being on the show.
Pleasure.
Tell our viewers a little about what is the Jewish Agency?
First, thank you for having me. The Jewish Agency is a historic organization, almost 100 years old, and predates the founding of the State of Israel. In fact, Ben-Gurion, before he was the first prime minister, was the head of the Jewish Agency, and the Jewish Agency gave birth to the State of Israel.
And the Jewish Agency today is working a lot in the area of aliyah. I mean, that's one of our natural resources. Can you tell us about that?
Since the beginning, this was our historic mandate. Aliyah means bringing Jews up, because we believe when you come to Israel, you go up in holiness and spirituality. And we believe we're bringing biblical prophecies alive. We have Jews that are scattered all four corners of the world. And since day one, Jewish Agency has been tasked with bringing them back here to Israel.
We were seeing a lot of momentum in aliyah. We say because of the rise of anti-Semitism, a lot of Jews are coming home once again. Yet during the 2-year war, things have kind of dipped. What's the future of aliyah? Is it going up again?
First of all, if you take a step back, almost 1/3 of the population of the State of Israel are olim, people who have immigrated to Israel. It's about 3 million people. So even since October 7th, we've had over 25,000 people choose to make Israel their home despite the war.
A lot of people believe that aliyah isn't just a decision, it's a biblical mandate, that God is calling the people back from the four corners of the earth, just like it was prophesied in the Bible, back to the land of Israel. Do people who make aliyah understand this?
I believe so. So many of them who I've spoken to and met, they have waited to come. They are prepared to come. And why do they want to be here? This is their roots. This is our roots from the Bible. And yes, we've seen prophecy over prophecy saying that we are Jewish people going to be brought back to the land of Israel.
Also, we see, though, a lot of people making aliyah because of the rise of anti-Semitism. There's a real threat to Jews in France and in Western Europe and places like that. Are we seeing an increase in the numbers there, too?
Very high increase, especially in France, especially in England and Europe. The amount of people that have begun the process of aliyah is up 300 to 400%. That means we have to be prepared with more people on the ground, giving them information, helping them with all the bureaucracy of coming to Israel, and making sure when they arrive, they're safe and they're able to continue their lives here.
What about Canada and Australia? We see the rise of anti-Semitism there, attacks on the Jewish community. You know, we had the Bondi massacre. Are they getting the message that it's time to come home?
We don't want people to feel scared that they have to come. We want it to be an open invitation, that when you're ready, we're here to bring you in. There are times we have aliyah rescue, and literally people are running for their lives. If I take you back 3-4 years ago, from the Russia-Ukrainian war, over 150,000 Russian-speaking Jews have come to Israel. Many of them were literally running for their lives away from the war. So yes, if there's any Jew around the world that's in danger, we're there to bring them here. Otherwise, we're there with the open invitation with all the wonderful things they can accomplish if they come.
One of the most exciting things in aliyah is the story of the sons of Manasseh. We found the tribe of Manasseh in India, in the northern part of India, and a lot have come already to Israel, but there's been a government decision to bring the rest of the remaining community home, about 6,000 people. Can you tell us about that?
This is incredible. If you talk about living in a time where biblical prophecies are coming alive, this is it. So we just got the green light from the government of Israel to bring the lost tribe, that for 2,000 years, they've traced their lineage and their traditions to the tribe of Manasseh. Now, I want you to know when they arrive in Israel, aliyah, bringing them here, is only the first step. Then we have to make sure they're successful in here. They live with us on our aliyah campuses for a number of months, where they are taught Hebrew. They are taught how to open bank accounts and open up their health care. They're taught how to navigate life as an Israeli. Their children start going to school. So the best thing we could do, besides bringing the olim, those to Israel, is making sure they're set once they arrive.
We're about to celebrate Passover, and we learn about the story of leaving Egypt, coming to the land of Israel. Is the miracle of Jews coming back from 70 different countries back to the land of Israel on par with that miracle of leaving Egypt and coming home?
So if you think about the story of Passover, that's the beginning of the first mass aliyah to Israel of the Jewish people. Yeah, it took them 40 years in the desert in order to get here, but the second generation made it. And we look back to that story for inspiration. It wasn't easy traveling 40 years in the desert, just like it's not easy for Jews around the world necessarily to come to Israel. But once they're here, this is God's land. And this is the promise that the Bible, that the Torah tells us, that God will bring us back to live here.
Christians support aliyah. I mean, a lot of the olim that come to Israel are funded by Christians. You're the director of Christian Friends of Jewish Agency. So why is it important for Christians to get involved in this process?
It's such a special thing to be able to build these bridges with Christians around the world who support aliyah and support Jews returning. Now, I want you to know, even from the beginning of the start of the Jewish Agency almost 100 years ago, Christian support has been vital for this to happen. So Christians are our brothers and our sisters, and they too believe in the same biblical prophecies and that God calls upon them to be helpers in getting the Jews back to Israel. And yes, I've met many Christians that are literally around countries around the world, trying to also convince Jews to make aliyah and help them, driving them to the airport, helping for their flights. So it's really an honor and a blessing to see this part of the biblical prophecy come true when we're going to be brothers and sisters and working together to make this happen.
Jay, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
So first of all, the time is now. When we talk about the days of the biblical prophecies, all we have to do is open our eyes and see it happening. So I invite Christians to continue to work and partner with us. To pray for us, to pray for those Jews around the world to be able to make it back to Israel. We have many Jews who are suffering from anti-Semitism, as was mentioned earlier, around the world, to reach out to the Jewish community, to extend a hand to them, and of course to come visit. Bring yourselves to Israel and come see it firsthand, how the land is once again rising and how it's turning green again and how people are coming back from all four corners of the earth. So I invite you to be part of the biblical prophecy coming alive.
Thank you, Rabbi, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, wishing you a happy Passover. Now back to the studio.
And now the truth from Zion.
The story of Iran's nuclear ambitions begins well before today's headlines. In 1957, Washington and Tehran signed a civil nuclear cooperation pact under the Atoms for Peace program. Iran joined the 1970 Non-Proliferation Treaty and built research facilities in Tehran. The German company Siemens started construction on the Bushehr reactors in the 1970s, but the 1979 Islamic Revolution halted the construction. War with Iraq and economic sanctions kept the project dormant, but not forever. In the 1980s, the new extreme Islamic regime quietly pivoted. The fanatical Muslim rulers restarted the nuclear program, this time with militarized intentions. Help came from abroad. In the early 1990s, China explored nuclear cooperation with Iran. Under U.S. pressure, Beijing canceled formal projects in 1997, but designs and know-how had already been shared. In 1995, Russia agreed to complete Bushehr on the Persian Gulf Coast, giving the regime a program it could call civilian. Then came the first big public reckoning. In 2002, Iranian dissidents exposed 2 undeclared facilities. Iran denied military intent but admitted the sites existed. In 2003, facing pressure from Europe's E3, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, Tehran signed the additional protocol and suspended enrichment, but only briefly. By 2006, enrichment was back on, and the UN Security Council issued a string of resolutions demanding suspension of nuclear activity and imposing sanctions. A shadow war between Iran and the West intensified. Between 2009 and 2010, the Stuxnet cyber operation damaged hundreds of Natanz centrifuges. In 2015, President Barack Obama ushered in the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal. Israel called it a disaster because it traded sweeping sanctions relief and the unfreezing of funds for temporary nuclear limits. In 2018, President Donald Trump called the agreement the worst deal in history. He withdrew from the accord and reimposed crushing sanctions, collapsing oil revenues, cutting off financiers, and restoring leverage that the agreement had surrendered. In 2018, a Mossad team removed a half-ton nuclear archive from a Tehran warehouse. The documents and design showed past weapons work. In November 2020, Moshe Fakhrizadeh, the architect of that program, was assassinated near Tehran. In April 2021, a sabotage blast cut power at Natanz and set the enrichment program back. By the spring of 2025, the UN's International Atomic Energy Agency numbers were alarming. Iran's stock of uranium enriched to 60%, a level with no civilian purpose, just one notch below weapons grade, had reached 408.6 kilograms. The agency determined it was enough to produce multiple atomic bombs if further enriched. That was the backdrop to the 12-day war. On June 13th, Israel attacked Iran's missile and nuclear facilities. In the days that followed, Israeli jets and military assets hit ballistic missile factories, storage and launch sites, command centers, senior Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps personnel, and critical logistics. Iran fired back at Israel with barrages of ballistic and cruise missiles, but Israel maintained the upper hand. Then, in the early hours of June 22nd, President Donald Trump ordered the United States to strike alongside Israel. B-2 stealth bombers and cruise missile platforms hit Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan, the core of Iran's nuclear program. Trump said the facilities were completely and totally obliterated. The infrastructure was heavily damaged, and large parts of Iran's rogue nuclear program were forced offline. Israel has lived with this threat longer than anyone. It will not continue to do so.
If the regime in Iran gets nuclear weapons, the entire Western world will be under threat. Thank God Israel and the United States greatly damaged their nuclear capabilities and are determined to ensure that the world's top terror regime never gets the world's most dangerous weapons.
The danger persists, but so does Israel's advantage: unity, skill, and the willingness to act before it's too late. From Jerusalem, this is the Truth from Zion. Up next, shining light from Israel.
Located just a half-hour north of the city of Eilat lies one of the most majestic parks in the entire land of Israel, Timna. Walking through Timna Park is literally walking through time. 500 million years of geological evolution. All of this area at one time was covered by a huge deep sea called the Tethys Sea. And further to the east, 500 million years ago, came up these huge, massive granite mountains. But as the Tethys Sea began to dissipate, it carved off the top layer of this limestone mountain. And with the earthquakes, the rains, the ice age, it carved out the valley I'm walking in right now to reveal some of the most beautiful geological formations. So let's go see some of them now. One of the great things about visiting Timna Park is to be able to walk on this timeless landscape. Underneath all of these rocks you see behind me is sand just like this. And it makes me wonder, after another million years of erosion, what formations will be revealed? The natural beauty here in Timna is just one aspect of the park. But when ancient man arrives here, they'll find something of value within its stones. As you walk about, you'll notice these beautiful green stones everywhere. This is copper ore, and it was during the Chalcolithic period here in Timna that the Copper Age began. One of the ways ancient man would mine the copper here at Timna would be to dig out these vertical shafts until they found a vein of copper ore like you can see right here. And then once discovering that vein, they would start to dig horizontally, digging out all of that ore and bringing it to the top. So in all of these shafts, you'll have channels from the left to the right, all following ores of copper. And as a visitor to Timna, one can explore these shafts on their own. Okay, now that we learned how they mined the copper ore, let's now learn how they smelted it. Once the copper ore was mined and brought here in baskets, they would use these tools over here to grind the rocks to a fine powder. That fine powder would then be brought here to the oven, which was fueled with acacia wood, a biblical tree that grows in this area. Using manpower and these bellows, they would pump air into the oven, and the temperatures would rise to at least 1,000 degrees Celsius when the copper would melt. Copper, being heavy, would sink to the bottom of the oven, where the slag, the refuse, would slide out from a hole that was drilled into the side of the oven. Once it cooled off, what remained were these huge copper patties known as an ingot, and then they would melt it down, pour the copper into the mold, making a beautiful bar, creating an easy way to transport all of their copper. The Egyptian Empire will fall in the 13th century BCE, and the Edomians, who were already mining copper in what is today southern Jordan, began to mine copper here as well. King Solomon in the 9th century BCE will also establish mines here. These mines would be known as Solomon's Mines. In fact, the pillars, the beautiful formations you can see behind me, are named after King Solomon. Timna Park offers many ways to experience it, from hiking and biking trails to Jeep tours, as well as a multimedia presentation that tells the story of the park. There's also a fantastic visitor center with a full-service restaurant and overnight accommodations. So on your next visit to Israel, make sure to visit Timna Park.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Rebekah Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan Elrom, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.